Aloha, everyone. Welcome to our Friday hearing with the Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. We have a 3 o'clock agenda, and we are gathered here in room 224. Have to make a few housekeeping announcements before we begin. This meeting, including their audio and video of remote participants, is being streamed live on YouTube. You'll find links to viewing options for all Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. And in the unlikely event that we have some technical turbulence and the hearing takes a terrible nosedive, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business, and the public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. For those of you who are joining us online to testify, your audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. We have 6 bills on today's agenda. The first one is Senate Bill 2865. This is a spur for Dibs Hawai'i. First on our testifiers list, we have Craig Hirai from Craig Hirai submitted commentary. Our first person to sign up to testify is Scott Glenn from the Office of Energy.
Aloha, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair Misalucha, and members of the committee. The Energy Office speaks in support of this proposal. We believe capturing carbon dioxide as a form of avoided emissions and having industrial uses for it is a way to help address climate change and promote economic diversification. As well, we've highlighted in our testimony the point that we think that capturing emissions today as avoided emissions is a worthwhile activity, and we would like to be able to help learn from that and position the state to pursue our carbon dioxide coming from renewable energy in the future, or from atmospheric carbon as a way to provide our industrial needs. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Scott. Very nice vintage Aloha shirt. I guess that's the call for order today on Friday, to have nice blue vintage Aloha shirts. Thank you for your testimony, Scott. Next, we have Keone Ford from Dibs Hawai'i.
Aloha kako, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair Misalucha, and committee members and other senators present. I want to give a warm mahalo and aloha to all of you for hearing the Senate Bill 2865 in support of Dibs Hawai'i's net zero carbon capture storage utilization platform. We are positioned to support small businesses, local economy. Most importantly, we want to use CO2 to benefit Hawaiian lifestyle, doing so by able to provide nutrient-dense soil systems so that we can grow nutrient-dense food that supports our local economies on all islands. We also want to be able to support other carbon dioxide processes like the concrete industry by using carbon mineralization into the concrete. I think it's an excellent platform to sequester carbon, and we want to be able to support interest there. And also the DoD and some of the measures as it pertains to sustainable jet fuel and providing carbon dioxide to support that. So I greatly appreciate your time today, and happy Aloha Friday.
Happy weekend to you as well, Keone. That's all we have for our live testifiers. Members, we do have another 14 individuals who have testified or submitted written testimony in support. Any questions of Keone or for Scott? No? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move on to our next bill. That is Senate Bill 3231. On our testifiers list, we have Georgia Skinner.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Georgia Skinner, Head of Creative Industries for the state, where the film office is housed. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this measure. We do stand on the comments that we made in our testimony, and just wanted to point out that we look forward to working with the introducers and the committee on some language that we would like to recommend. I apologize for not having that for you today, but we know that there is a very strong support for the film industry, so we appreciate that. And it's a very key part of our creative industries in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. Members, that's the only person we have signed up to testify on this measure. Any questions for Georgia? Okay, thank you, Georgia. We're going to move on to our third bill on the agenda. That is Senate Bill 3243. First on our testifiers list is Len Higashi from HTDC.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Len Higashi from Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. We stand on our written testimony in support of this bill. We do note the same concerns that, or potential concerns that Budget and Finance did regarding the term economic zone, as long as it's not misleading, but the term industrial park, we do agree is antiquated and could use a refresh. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. That's all we have for those who have signed up to testify on this measure. Members, any questions for Len Higashi? Oh, wow, we are moving quite quickly. So we're going to move.
Just curious about it,
Oh,
especially.
sorry.
Hi, Len. Hey, so yeah, economic zone can be kind of confusing in previous usages, right? So you suggest something like maybe special, or to make sure it's distinguished from special economic zone, or the enterprise zones, right? We've got these different names. Just curious if you have any clarity that you think would improve this process.
Thank you, Senator. I didn't have a recommendation. I'm sorry, I didn't. This was not our bill, but I just wanted to flag that it could cause confusion. And so if there's a better name, I'm happy to make a recommendation, but I'm not prepared to do that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Len, sorry, one follow-up question though,
Sure.
is, and sorry, this is not your testimony, but there is an entity called Clean Power Alliance that says that as we contemplate changing the name from industrial areas to industrial parks to enterprise or economic zones, that it also include energy. Just, do you think that that's a good idea to have energy zones?
Again, respectfully, this wasn't our bill, and so I want to be a little mindful. The statute really just updated the name. It did have one small little amendment, which included greenhouse, which we provided comments on as agriculture, but adding renewable energy, HTDC doesn't have any particular issue over adding specifying what technology means. I think the point of this bill is that we need, geographical, regional density in specialized areas. So I don't have any comments or specific concerns about adding things. I think those are discussions for legislature in terms of priorities. As long as it's technology, then as it fits our mission, we see appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Len. Members, any further questions for Len? No? Okay, thank you for joining us, Len. We're going to move on to the next measure, that is Senate Bill 3337. And we're going to call first Chung Chang from DBED.
Good afternoon, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair Mr. Lucha, and members of the committee. My name is Chung Chang, the Deputy Director for DBED, here to testify for the department, and his director, Mike McCartney. The director sends his regards for not being able to attend this hearing as he's tending to another important matter. And sorry, I didn't get the memo on the blue aloha shirt, but I am matching with Senator Favilla, the orange.
Oh yeah, you guys got the orange. Orange, you happy?
Yes. So DBED, we thank you. Thank the committee for hearing this measure that establishes a public policy framework that addresses the state goals in areas of economic disaster mitigation, economic diversification, import substitution, and community development. We have with us today various members of our DBED Wahana, which includes all of our attached agencies, to share with the committee and the public that through collaboration and coordinated efforts with our stakeholders, the state, counties, businesses, investors, unions, and the communities, we can make progress on our economic, social, and environmental growth and prosperity. The following individuals will provide their portions of this testimony in this order, and we thank you ahead of time for providing us additional time for this portion. So Dennis Ling, Bert Lam, Scott Murakami, and Georgia will share their portion in this testimony. The attached agencies have submitted separate testimonies on this measure and will provide the details of their project submissions in their respective testimonies. Mahalo. Okay, Dennis, please.
Yes, aloha senators, chair, vice chair, Dennis Lang with DBED. We have three proposals that we would like funding for. The first is $500,000 for community-based economic development revitalization grants to provide funding for communities to hold economic development activities. DBID CBID program does not have funds to make grants to community nonprofits for economic development purposes because most of our funds are committed to a microloan program that we have, in which we've gotten $1 million from the federal government. It's matching funds for that. As a result, we've not been entertaining numerous requests to get community nonprofits to hold community revitalization activities. And these activities include in the areas of business, agriculture, culture, culinary, nature, education, health, wellness, includes holding farmers markets, farm to table projects, our town days, ho'olaulea, community expos, and sports things. So we are seeking funding for our grant program to provide for these activities. The second request is for $400,000 to establish the Office of International Relations. The legislature back in 2006 established the Office of International Relations, but we could not implement it because of lack of funding. So we are seeking funding for this to make this statute alive and to handle our overseas offices, sister state relationships, as well as some of the areas in which we are not currently involved in with regards to international activities, such as peace matters, cultural matters, artistic exchanges, faith-based exchanges as the statute requires. The third request we have is for $500,000 for a Cyber Leaders program to provide educational and technical cybersecurity assistance to local businesses to maintain compliance with the cybersecurity requirements. And thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Dennis.
Aloha, Chair Wakai and Vice Chair Rizzalucha. My name is Bert Lum. I'm the Broadband Strategy Officer here in DBID and part of the Hawaii Broadband and Digital Equity Office. There's a couple of projects that are on the list, and I'll go through them real quickly. The first one is the engineering and design for the cable landing infrastructure that was identified on Kauai, Oahu, Maui, and the Big Island. We were requesting $1 million to proceed with the engineering and design work that we had identified. The second one is for part of our digital equity effort, and we looked at a pretty good sized digital literacy project, which would provide digital literacy training through the libraries, and we would partner up with folks like Hawaii Literacy, as well as you're familiar with Ka'ala Souza and the work that he's been doing. And so we wanted to see if we could, get funding to get that project off the ground. The key points I wanted to make, Senators, is that, time is of the essence. A lot of this is coming down quite quickly from the federal government, and the sooner we are able to, get some of these projects rolling, I think the better position that we would be in. And then I guess the third point I wanted to make is that any of these projects that do get set and put into motion will help to build the organizational capacity for us to continue to work in broadband as well as digital equity. So thanks for allowing me to provide this testimony, and I am definitely available for any questions.
Sean, are you going to call the next person?
Scott Murakami, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Wakai and Vice Chair Lucha and members of the committee. It's good to see all of you again. It's been a while. We have two requests through this bill. Both are for remote work. The first is to expand our Remote Work Ready Hawaii project, and the second is to expand the remote work website that we've developed. I'd be happy to answer questions about how those integrate both with the digital economy, how it helps to prepare us and Hawaii's economy to be more active in the digital economy, as well as some of the accomplishments we've had out of phase one. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to working with all of you. Aloha.
Thank you. And finally, Georgia Skinner.
Aloha. Aloha again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you today our two priorities, which are tied into the three pillars of developing a knowledge-based economy in our state. One is the need for additional 1.3 million to be able to continue to replicate the Entrepreneur Sandbox creative space, now known as Ideate Studios, for other communities throughout the state. We are looking at 6 individual startup areas within the state of Hawaii. And as soon as we can identify that we are able to get these funds, we already have programs in place as well as vendors in place that we're looking at to really train people for new jobs that are important and remote work based. They differ from what we have, I think, already within our school system. And this is the forward-facing virtual reality XR stages that need to be staffed with people who are competent in these areas. This is why we have been looking at ways to train the local workforce in specific jobs, and through the UH Innovation Office and their Good Jobs Challenge, we hope to be able to get that grant. If we do, this will help to engage our partnership in that overall initiative. I'm happy to answer any specific questions on this after the testimony today. The second is access to talent. We have developed, of course, the Creative Lab program. Now are there many other spin-off programs. And what we need to do now is connect the assets of our knowledge-based industries in all of the creative clusters to those job availabilities. Some of those may be serviced by the existing remote workforce portal, but what we need now is one that's specifically designed to highlight the work created, the ability to license this, and the ability for our community to be able to have the business acumen to be able to conduct themselves and go forward to monetize their work while still being here at home. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you, Chair. That concludes our portion of this testimony.
Will your attached agencies like NELHA and HCDA be testifying or no?
Yes, they actually have separate testimonies that they submitted. So if you want to call them in, they can provide that now or when their turn comes up in the agenda.
Okay,
We'll be
okay.
flexible.
I'll go through the testifiers list. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
We have Lauren Primiano from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Hi, happy Aloha Friday. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Lauren Primiano on behalf of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. While there are no projects specific to the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development in this measure, we do stand on our written testimony in support as it would provide resources for the implementation of important projects and ultimately allow us to align our economic planning assets with implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Gwen Yamamoto Lau.
Thank you, Chair. Happy Aloha Friday, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Gwen Yamamoto Lau with the Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. You know, solarized campaigns across the nations have been very effective because instead of converting one rooftop at a time, it leverages the power of the community with neighbors helping neighbors to understand the benefits of and drive down the cost of solar. Far too often, while well-intentioned, we do things to or for the state without getting the very people we are trying to help, our communities, involved in the process. A guiding principle of the solarized campaigns are to work with communities to co-create a campaign that meets their needs in unique circumstances. We have been working with the leaders of the Waianae community to pilot our first solarized campaign in Hawaii and hope to work with other under-resourced communities throughout the state. While the campaign will be leveraging GEMS and other financing programs, using Waianae as an example, there are over 8,000 rooftops without solar. If we are successful in getting even 200 households to participate, participate, it would result in over $10 million of investments, which would not only facilitate clean energy, but also create and retain higher paying green jobs. The request in the bill is to assist our lowest income level households buy down a portion of the cost of the system to help them lower their financing costs so they too are not locked out of solar and can also benefit from reducing their energy burden. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Next, we have Len Higashi from HTDC.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Len Higashi, HTDC. We stand on our testimony in support of this bill. We didn't have any specific asks in the DBED in the bill itself, but we point out that we appreciate the policy framework, comprehensive strategy, and share that we've been working together with all of the, including on the Creative Space Studio, Ocean Economy Village, SSBCI program, and Sustainable Aviation Fuel project proposed by State Energy Office. I do want to share regarding the Sustainable Aviation Fuel. We plan to use a program of ours, the HCAT, Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies. They're basically the renewable energy innovation part of HTDC. And that particular program is federally funded, and the funding is set to expire at the end of this year. So look forward to starting this conversation and appreciate the opportunity to testify. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. We have Deepak from HCDA.
Good afternoon, Senator Wakai, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair Ms. Lucha, and members of the committee. Craig Nakamoto, I'm standing in for Executive Director in Nupani and speaking on behalf of Hawaii Community Development Authority. I want to focus on two projects, CIP requests that are in this bill and also in the budget. These are two CIP requests for our Kakako and our Kalailoa Community Development Districts. These two projects, if completed, will spur economic development and community development in those two districts. First, for Kalailoa, reliable electricity is very much needed in the district. This project will bring electrical corridor and electrical and communications cabling down Saratoga Road from Enterprise to Hornet at a cost of $12 million, approximately $12 million. This will bring reliable utilities to Saratoga Road. The second is the repair, or health and safety repair of our bulkhead at Kewalo Basin Harbor in the amount of $25 million. These are necessary repairs to allow use of the bulkhead by vessels and allow people to use it on the land side. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. We have Greg Barber from NELHA.
Chair Wakai, Vice Chair and members of the committee, I'm Greg Barber from the Natural Energy Lab. In the interest of time, we'll stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. We have Cliff Miyake from Ocean Networks.
Aloha, Senator Wakai, Vice Chair Mizalucha, and members of the committee. Thanks for the opportunity to testify today. Ocean Networks, we stand in support of this bill, and we feel, especially the appropriations, which we feel will expand on the digital economy and thereby drive economic development. Thanks again. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Cliff. And we have Sandy Wong.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sandy Wong. I've submitted comments in support of this measure. I'm specifically or especially excited about the appropriation for the carrier neutral cable landing. So I do support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Oh, I almost forgot Scott Glenn. Apologize, Scott, Office of Energy.
Aloha, Chair. Thank you. I'm trying to start my video. Okay, thank you. Yes, we stand in full support of this policy framework. We believe it's a productive and interesting approach to the subject. We offered in our testimony 2 items for the committee's consideration. One is $10 million to fund the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Program at HTDC that was created in Act 180 of last session. And then also $5 million to accelerate state fleet conversion, which was passed by the legislature last session to set up the goal for the state in Act 74. I'd just like to note on that proposal for considering state fleet conversion, the goal right now is focused on light duty vehicles. And soon in the near future, we'll probably need to start working on medium and heavy duty vehicles, as well as other types of transportation modes. And we think that looking at hydrogen would be an interesting approach to this. Right now, Oahu has 1 public-facing hydrogen fueling station. And in order to position the island to be more eligible for federal funding, including under the Infrastructure Act, having a second public-facing hydrogen fueling station or plans for one and funding lined up for one can help position the state to be competitive for winning future federal grants, including under the Infrastructure Act. So I'll pause there and available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. That's all we have for our live testifiers. Members, any questions of those who have testified? No? Okay, I have a number of questions, mostly from the DBED team. If I could call on Dennis Ling first.
Yes, Senator, I'm trying to get video. Here I am.
Yeah, good. You're looking good today, Dennis.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I have a question about 2 of your requests. The first one, the $500,000 for the community-based economic development. And I understand how you have kind of gone to the communities and are going to use this money to help expose farmers markets and stuff. But it seems like this is the cart before the horse. You're asking for the money and then you're going to backfill and tell us later how you spent the money. Shouldn't it be the other way around, where you tell us, okay, on Molokai, Lanai, whatever, they want a farmer's market, they want an expo, and here's how much it costs, and here, lawmakers, can you pay for it? Wouldn't that be the proper way to go about funding your CBED program?
Actually, the way the grant program works, it's like it's pretty much like the HTA's community enrichment program, in which we sent out a call for proposals for some of the programs that the communities would like to do. Although ours is broader than just the community enrichment, it includes things like business fairs or job training programs, or community fairs, community connection events such as training, resource workshops, and other things like that. So we put out the call for requests for proposals. A lot of them are startup. Some of the enrichment programs like startup festivals. For instance, we've had request from Waimanalo regarding the carnival that they have there, from Waianae regarding some of the crafters pulling together something and they would like to pull together a fair. So, it would be similar to that, in which we would say we have some funding available for these kinds of events, activities that would help enrich the communities economic development wise, and please come forward with your proposals.
Okay. I have a question with regard to your second ask, the $400,000 for the Office of International Relations. I know you have, is part of this money going to be used for your Taipei and your Beijing offices?
Yes. It costs us $100,000 each to operate the Taipei and Beijing office, so yes.
Can you tell us what value does the people of Hawaii get out of those 2 offices? I haven't heard any recent deals that have been made out of those 2 offices.
Well, the Taiwan office, for instance, they help work the China Air, Asiana connections to make sure that the flights do come to Hawaii. Although, during the pandemic, everything has stopped. They're also working on the helping to get the FESPAC major donation from the indigenous organization in Taiwan to help support the FESPAC conference that we will have in Hawaii. They're also involved with international student attraction, and we're very successful in helping to get some groups from Taiwan to come to Hawaii. In the Beijing side, we've worked with them to secure the investments from Oceanwide Holdings into Hawaii, which was a major investment that took place. We've also established in Taiwan and in Beijing, the offices became the education information office, so that if any student or anyone who had wanted to inquire about studying in Hawaii would go to those offices. Yes, those are some of the things, the highlights of the overseas offices.
Yeah, but considering COVID's still around, and probably will be for another, who knows how long, at least months, and then, supply chain issues that you and no one in Hawaii can really work around, is it prudent for us to have an expectation that we're going to drop $400,000 on an international relations office to spur economic development, when that's probably not going to be happening anytime in the next year?
Well, we hope that within the next year, things will open up. Besides the, what we'd like to do is, once things open up, to have the, a sister state conference of our Japan sisters, for instance, in Hawaii, a sister state conference of our Philippine sisters in Hawaii, those kinds of activities that are related to the sister states. And we think within the next year or two that might happen. And, COVID will open and we can pull these things off. And also to get involved with the export of our professional services, which relates to our remote work initiative, in which we can promote some of our competitive advantage areas, such as resort development design, architecture, engineering, planning, tourism management, to areas internationally that might want to take advantage of this through the remote initiative, but it's also international related.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Dennis now?
I do have a question for
Senator
Dennis.
Solution.
So Dennis, thank you. And the devil will be in the details, as I can well imagine, because this is a big ask. But when I was perusing the bill as well as your testimony, I was wondering, and I'm not sure whether you have this easily accessible how do you call that, right now, but if not, you can send me the information later on. But some of the provisions are going to be funding infrastructure, but I would imagine there are positions that would need to be set aside to support those new endeavors. Do you know how many FTEs we're going to have to add based on the ask that you have? Because like if you're starting off like your Office of International Affairs or whatever, there must be some ask that would be a budget devoted just for the labor, right? So, or salaries and expenses. So I'm just wondering how many % of that ask is actually for, and I'm just concerned about expanding of our workforce. Are we, increasing our workforce?
Yeah, for the office, yes, I understand the question. Thank you very much for that. And for the Office of International Affairs, we are looking at hiring 1 FTE. And we did get approval from the governor's office to hire through Act 160, a pilot program, although funding is lacking. The other 2 programs that we're asking money for, the CBED program, that can be handled within our current existing staff. And the funding for the cybersecurity enhancement is, we'll be able to contract that out, and overseeing it would be our defense economy specialist.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Oh, okay, thank you, Dennis. I'd like to ask Bert Lum a few questions.
Yes, Senator.
Oh, hi, Bert.
I'm here.
Your $1 million ask for cable landing. I agree that you need to do the prep work now. But what happened to the $10 million that we gave you last year for this project?
Thank you, Senator. The $10 million was appropriated, but was put into bags. And that money was from ARPA funds. And I don't think the funds were ever released to build or do the work for the cable landing. So I've spoken to the director, Kurt Otoguro, and they basically held that money up because it was never released, and that project has not started.
Okay, so why don't you just ask for the money to be released and you take 1 million out of the 10 million bucks?
That, again, that project will be probably part of the CPF funding and the CPF program that will move forward based on the U.S. Treasury release of those funds. But again, the idea here is that, rather than wait for the CPF funds to become available, the work for the engineering and design needs to happen, as soon as possible, right? Because that's still the pre-construction work that needs to take place. And that's why, we at DBED had issued that professional services requests, back in 2021, and we're hoping to get the work started in anticipation of, further funding for the build out, of all the cable landings.
Yeah. So let's say we do put in this $1 million appropriation. How confident are you that it's going to get released? And we're going to be in the same situation we're in now next year?
I can only be optimistic and say that if it was appropriated by Senate Bill 3337, that we would then need to go and get it ultimately released from Budget and Finance and the governor.
Okay. Your second ask is about another $1 million for digital literacy. And I have been with you on all the broadband HUIs. I see the importance of us getting Kupuna to Keiki really up to speed on digital learning. But is this really a DBED function? Isn't this like a Department of Labor function and responsibility?
That's a great question. And Senator, what we are trying to do, especially here in DBED and through the broadband digital equity offices, provide kind of that focal point and coordination and be a place where we can have a sense of what are the projects that are taking place. And I think from the point of view of economic development, we stand in a good position to address sort of the whole spectrum of opportunity that the digital equity, digital literacy can address. So you're absolutely right. I mean, there's going to be digital literacy through some of the DOE programs when they look at deploying some of their computer science in education. DLIR will be definitely part of a getting people certified for being ready for the workforce. What I'm describing though is that there's a spectrum of activities that address the need for at a basic level digital literacy, and at a more higher level with some of the certification and courses that DLIR would be involved in. So from the aspect of DBED and trying to be helping to address the entire spectrum of opportunity, I think this area of digital literacy, which would not necessarily completely fall into DOE or not necessarily fall into DLIR, we would have kind of a key role in not only implementing a program to achieve our digital equity goals, but we would have a good position kind of helping to coordinate and oversight through that spectrum of need, that spectrum of need that I'm referring to, for digital literacy from Keiki to Kupuna.
Okay. I still do think that this is more for an educational entity or DLIR to be doing this versus you, but I understand that you're filling in the gap that no one's entering there. Any questions for Bert?
Not for
Senators?
Bert, somebody else, yeah.
Any questions for Bert? Okay, who would you like to ask?
Gwen Lau, please.
Gwen?
Aloha, Gwen. So I wanted to just get some clarification because HECO has a shared solar program, right? And I know that it's intended for economically disadvantaged communities as well. How does that work with your plan?
Yeah, so shared solar is a community solar program. And honestly, it will take a number of programs to help especially our LMI communities convert to solar. So the community solar program is perfect for those households without a roof, people who live in a condo or apartment building, or those households with roofs that cannot support solar. We have many homes that the roofs are not even hurricane ready, much less solar ready. So the shared solar program is definitely an option for them. And it's also an option for people with solar ready roofs. However, it's just another option versus having, if there's households who really want to install solar on their rooftops, this is what we're trying to do. You know, the Utilities Power Supply Improvement Plan calls for 100% of the residential rooftops to support solar in order for us to reach that 100% goal by 2045. And we are trying to facilitate that and help our under-resourced communities also take advantage of lowering their energy burden. Thank you.
Refresh my memory. So are we, for your Solarize, is this like where we're getting federal funding and then we need the state to step up, or?
No, so we are looking at doing our, GEMS financing and other financing programs. But for the lowest income level, we'd like to get some the funds to help buy down a little bit of the cost of the solar to bring down the financing cost so we can lower their monthly payment, so we can make it more affordable for them so they can also qualify.
Is there no other federal grants that, for instance, would supplement the state funds?
Not that we know of at this time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Sure. Any questions? Gwen, sorry, we could get you back. Just a couple of follow-up questions. I'm trying to understand why we're spending $2.5 million to put PV on private residences' homes. We already have the solar tax credit. There's that lease program, right? I can't remember how it worked, but you don't have to put up any upfront costs. Somebody will pay for it, and over time, because of the savings on your electricity bill, that'll pay for it. So why do we have to spend $2.5 million to make improvements to a private citizen's home?
Yeah, so it's $2.5 million for not just one community. We'd like to do at least 7 solarized communities statewide. The beauty of Solarize is it's going into the communities. Right now we do solar PV financing, and it's one rooftop at a time. This is gathering the community together and co-creating a program for the community, getting their neighbors involved, having more people sign up at one time to bring down the cost of the solar. But while we're doing that, we don't want to leave anybody behind. And so we'd like to get some of this money as subsidies, again, for the lowest income level households who would like to participate.
So after we do solarizing Waianae, are we going to solarize Waimanalo, Haleiwa, Pearl City? I mean, where does it end?
Well, so we, again, the funding is not indefinite. So, we're targeting at least 7 communities statewide, and not just on Oahu, statewide.
How are you going to pick those communities?
That's to be determined. Part of it is the will of the community, because if the community is not willing or able to or interested, we're certainly not going to force them to do a solarized community, solarized program. The Waianae community is interested, and that's why we're working with them. But we'd like to start with Waianae and move to at least 7 communities statewide.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Okay,
Thank
you, Gwen. Can I ask for Greg Barber, Nelha? Hi, Mr. Barber.
Hi.
I ask about you're asking for $18 million to build an ocean innovation village. And you and I have talked about this. It's a great addition to your campus there, but this is one of those projects where it's a great opportunity for a public-private partnership. And I kind of suggested to you that you might want to just do an RFI to see if there are private entities that would want to partner with you to help defray some of these costs, because there's opportunities for revenue generation at this innovation village you speak of. Have you done anything to test the waters on any kind of private sector appetite to help become a partner with you on this project?
That's a great idea. Thank you, Senator. This is really not a commercial development. It's more of a business incubator to bring in companies, startups, and then as the businesses grow, then they graduate into the rest of the park. So the benefits, return on investment is really through state taxes, not through a private investor like a commercial development. We do have an area, 80-acre area, where we want to develop a more commercial development at the top of the park near the highway, which we call a sustainability mall. And that is perfect for an RFI. But this is a different business model, but certainly take it under suggestion. Thank you.
But there's going to be leasable space there, right? For offices and other spaces that you're going to potentially lease to a private enterprise, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So if you're familiar with the RISE project that the university has done, the old Atherton YMCA across the street, it's a $70 million project, no taxpayers' money. State gets in return for the lands, X amount, I can't remember the square footage. And then the developer built dorms and what have you. They're gonna, from the dorm payments and income, as well as other leasable space, are gonna pay for it. And that didn't cost the taxpayers of Hawaii a dime for the $70 million project. So I just see that yours is similar, where there's a really good opportunity for the private sector to help defray some of these $18 million costs. But you said, even if we discussed it last summer, Mr. Barber, you've done nothing to pursue a private partner on this project?
Well, we've talked to several high net worth individuals, but that was not a very encouraging reception.
Okay, but you didn't even put out an RFI to go beyond just the individuals, just to see if there are any business entities there to partner with you, correct?
Can certainly look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Members, any questions?
I have one more.
Oh,
Yeah.
Senator Misucha?
HCDA.
Great.
HCDA, please. Aloha.
Hey.
So I wanted to just get some more clarity on your ask about the repair of the Fisherman's Wharf in Kaka'ako.
Sure.
25 million is what we're looking at, and that is a significant allocation. Just wanted to, is how much, I guess I'm trying to determine if you have a vision of what that area, once we repair that, would look like, and are there any revenues that you hope to generate once it's repaired?
Sure, Senator. First of all, the repairs for this bulkhead and this dock in Kewalo Basin Harbor was first identified in 2018 as a much needed health and safety repair. So that's been our focus of this, more to get this repair done for health and safety reasons. It is the dock structure since 2018 has, just because of the passage of time, has further deteriorated, and it's actually in need of more repair. The costs attributed to this right now is higher than it was in 2018 because of pandemic-related supply chain issues, construction costs going up. There's in-water work involved in it, and there's also going to have to be some special processes done with the rebar to prevent it from rusting again. It's making it more negative or cathodic so that it doesn't rust. So there has been that kind of increase in cost associated with this project. However, once the dock side is repaired, vessels will be able to moor there, and there could be some use on the land side by use of the harbor.
Okay. You might want to explore and kick that idea a little bit further, because I think there needs to be additional vision or planning on how to best use that harbor, because I think there's so much potential there.
The harbor, just for context, Senator, it is operated right now by Howard Hughes. They manage the harbor, and they have made a lot of improvements to the piers and docks in that harbor, significant improvements. And this particular work, I think, was something that HCDA said that we'll take on this project again to make this harbor a lot more usable for visitors and residents alike.
Any idea how much investments they have put in there?
On the pier,
On the dock, yeah.
on the docks and that moor the boats. I don't have the exact number, but I can certainly get that to you.
Okay.
I will say that when the vision for this harbor is that there's going to be connectivity from the harbor near the charter building on Ala Moana. The DOT is working on a pedestrian bridge that's going to go over Ala Moana. They've received some funding for that, and it's going the harbor, Ala Moana Park, with the park on Malka side of Ala Moana near Ward Village. So the vision is that this is going to be sort of part of connect with the parks and that on Ward Village side.
Okay. I'm actually surprised that it's showing up as a CIP under your budget when it's a Department of Transportation, I would imagine, project.
No, not the harbor. The harbor. No, yeah. The harbor was actually transferred to HCDA, so it's not a DOT or Harbors Division. So it is our responsibility, and I will say, Senator, that I think if we can't get the funding this year, I think the cost for this project is going to only increase over time. So I respectfully ask if you can fund this.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator.
Craig, since Howard Hughes is going to make money off of this improvement, can we make them pay for part of this $25 million investment?
Well, Senator, it's a good question. They, as I mentioned, they have paid for a lot of the dock improvements, where the A dock and some of the docks that are in there where the commercial and commercial fishing boats moor. So they have made significant improvements in that. I think as part of the transfer, or that allowing them to manage the harbor, we committed to make these bulkhead repairs. Once the bulkhead are repaired and the vessels can moor there, we do get some economic benefit through the lease that we have with Howard Hughes. So the answer is yes.
Okay, your Saratoga Avenue electrical upgrade, $12 million. So if you get the money and you upgrade the system there, do you hand it over to HECO, or what happens to that?
So like we did with the Enterprise Road Energy Corridor, once we'll develop it according to HECO standards, and then we'll dedicate it to the appropriate utilities. It's an electrical and communications corridor. Yeah,
but then HECO is going to make money off of that investment, right? Because everybody who's going to pay for electricity is going to benefit from this state investment. So why wouldn't HECO pay for this if they're the ones that are ultimately going to charge the users?
I think there'll be, Senator, there will be, you know, a state benefit overall to this. Right now, the lack of infrastructure in the Kalaeloa, you know, community development district is seen as one of the sort of the #1 impediments to further development in that district. So once these improvements are made, then it will allow new developments to hook up to this ecosystem, because right now the Navy system the Navy system is not allowing new hookups. So the economic benefit to the state will be construction dollars when new developments or construction and projects are done, and then and also just revenues in terms of a different tax base.
Right. No, so I understand how you need electricity to, you know, bring the place alive, but is there a way for HECO to pay us back the $12 million?
I think the other way to look at this, Senator, is that there is a possibility, like, to sort of get some contribution for these costs through one of the major landowners in Kalaeloa as sort of a contribution, because a lot of these will this project will benefit that landowner. So there's a way to get contribution for it.
Okay, I mean, I really think those details need to be worked out, because we're using taxpayer funds to ultimately benefit HECO. It's going to charge everybody who's going to benefit from this infrastructure. So I hope you get all of those details worked out before we just pretty much make a $12 million donation to HECO with this project.
Sure.
Members, any further questions? Sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, Chris Lee.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. I was just going to follow up, if I could. Just asking on the Ala Moana Bridge connectivity project, if we'd be able to just follow up offline on that, on some of the funding questions from a transportation side of the equation.
Yeah. Okay. Sure, Senator Lee. I can follow up with you.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much.
Happy to do that.
I'm glad everybody's happy. Okay, Len Higashi, quick question for you in HCDC.
Higashi, HDDC, how's it?
Yes, hi Len. One of your divisions, HCAT, which focuses on hydrogen deployment, is about to kind of lose all of their funding since they're federally funded, right? They're no longer getting earmarks. And there's a chance that by end of the year, they're just going to disappear, when what they've been working on for, I don't know how many years, but many years, in trying to get to a hydrogen future for our energy needs. And it would be a shame to have them just kind of disappear because of a lack of federal funds. Is there any value in moving them to be state and general funded in that program?
Thank you, Chair, for the question and for the suggestion and recommendation. I think more than ever, our HCAT program is relevant, especially a lot of bills and conversations around hydrogen and the different renewable energy type of projects that we do. We do feel our program brings value to the state, and positioning it in general funds would probably give us the opportunity to work on different state priorities. So yes, I agree that it would provide value, and we would appreciate the support. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further questions of anybody who testified on Senate Bill 3337? No? Okay. Thank you, everybody. We're going to move on to our next measure. That is Senate Bill 3333. First on our testifiers list, John DeFries or the Hawaii Tourism Authority.
Not present, Chair.
Oh, okay. And we have next Georgetta Chalk. Is Georgetta Chalk there? Edward Jones. Oh, I see somebody there.
Georgetta is here, Chair.
Oh, hi, Georgetta.
Aloha, my name is Georgetta Chalk, and I have lived on Oahu for 82 years, and I am testifying against Senate Bill 3333. After learning about this bill, I had to wonder whether I was still living in Hawaii, or was I in Florida, Arizona, or Texas, or in some other GOP state that's taken away everyone's right to exist, including women's legal rights for abortion. And now our own elected officials are becoming like those on the mainland. What's next? Our voting rights to vote by mail? To those that have signed on to this bill, I don't know how you can look yourself in the mirror or sleep at night knowing you are pitting neighbors against each other. We might as well shoot each other as the courts are overburdened. This may sound harsh, but this is what you will be creating with this bill. Where is the Aloha spirit? As stated recently by the Star Advertiser editor, transit vacation units are not the problem. Monster homes are the real issue here in Hawaii, especially on Oahu. Also, what about the illegal fireworks brought in through our ports? What about the e-guns or tasers that were approved? Why is this necessary? What about street signs that are either missing, broken, or ones that are unable to be read? What about all the illegal parking?
Can you keep your comments to this measure? And then we have a 1 minute limit on everyone who's testifying. So if you could.
Oh, I thought it was 3. Okay. Well, if you want me to just keep, I can't help but feel so disappointed in our local elected officials. What the city council, House, and Senate are doing against transit rentals is a total disgrace and is destroying Hawaii and its tourist industry, or whatever's left of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chalk. We have Edward Jones.
Aloha, Chair, Senators. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. I'm opposed to the measure. I point out that I am on Oahu, so I'm speaking from the perspective of city and county. Some recommendations on this bill. On the front end, it would be good for civilian citizen lawsuits in general to have an additional check that all administrative remedies are exhausted before the plaintiff has standing in court. So let me explain what that means in the context of this legislation. We have a DPP. So if a citizen resident has a single piece of evidence with merit, they should present it to the Department of Planning and Permitting and expect a response, either no merit or I'm going to proceed with notice of violation. Once that occurs, they should not get standing in a court. If the DPP does not respond, then a resident should go to court and ask for petition the court for a motion to compel the DPP to do their job. I don't think that that's going to happen, but that should be in the legislation. And then the judge will provide some period of time. When that period of time tolls, then it's reasonable for a resident to have standing to do a citizen lawsuit. On the back end, there should be an additional test, in addition to $25,000 of actual damages that often might be lower than $25,000. They should be entitled only to actual damages in that case. Mahalo for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Martine Keves Foster.
Yes, thank you. Aloha, my name is Martina Cephas Foster. Thank you, Chair and members, for allowing me to speak. I oppose this bill because it encourages vigilantism. It'll poison our neighborhoods by deputizing citizens to sue their neighbors for hosting short-term rentals, whether true or not, even pit family against Ohana. Does Hawaii really want to follow Texas's lead in this respect? SB 3333 even offers a bounty of $25,000 to individuals who take their neighbors to court. For someone who could really use an extra $25,000, that's powerful motive, even with little or no evidence. This bill robs our island home of aloha. This is an insidious bill. Instead, it makes far more sense for the counties to reestablish the MOU with Expedia and Airbnb and fund the departments of planning and permitting so they can do their job. This will be far more civil way to monitor short-term rentals. Please preserve peace, privacy, and aloha in our neighborhoods. Mahalo.
Thank you, Martine. We have Terry Lodge.
I'll make my testimony short and sweet, allocate my time to somebody else. I think that we're rushing the gun on this, and we need to really just pause, pump the brakes a little bit, and just consider the Pandora's box that we're opening by allowing any sort of previous altercation, misunderstanding, miscommunication with neighbors to then give them a vehicle and or a pass to promote any retribution or anything that could have ill will. So there are a lot of ideas on the table. I know that there's passions on both sides. I just think if we could possibly just pump the brakes and just allow us some more time on both sides to come up with some better ideas and some better plans, we can really come together on this one this time and make everybody happy. That's my time.
Thank you, Terry. Valerie Leo?
Not present, Chair.
Okay, that's all we have for our live testimony. Members, any questions of those who testified? No. Senator Fabella, did you want to ask a question?
Oh, yeah, I just was going to ask if anybody from DPP was on, Chair.
No, we've got nobody from government, only residences, I believe.
Well, Chair, I want to thank the introducer of this bill, and you for hearing it. Going forward, property damages on Ever Beach Road in my community. But it's hard to do anything when you do the process of having Department of Planning and Permitting. You do the calling, you do the reporting, you take the pictures. But these guys make so much money that they just wait it out. Because they rent some of these houses $5,000 to $7,000 a weekend. Who in a neighborhood can even compete against this? So this is playing, to me, leveling the playing field, getting these illegal guys out of our community. And I think this is a good bill for Ever Beach. I'm not saying anybody else, but it's good because we can get our community back and having our kupuna not paying outrageous land taxes because they get on 15-bedroom house with 7 bathrooms for a rental unit for beach rental. Again, Chair, I wanted to ask somebody from Department of Planning Permitting, Chair, because we did that process. Our community did it for 10 years and got nothing. So this is a great avenue and making a playing field even for the residents who suffer on seeing these guys go on the beach with pallets and burn pallets and chase our monk seals. I mean, there's a lot of disrespect for these guys coming to our community and knowing that they're only going to be there short term. So there's a lot of disrespect. We like talk about ohana and family. Well, respect the ohana and family who do not want these things next to them. They don't want the rising cost of land tax because the other guy get on 15-bedroom, he can afford to pay $7,000, $8,000 a year land tax. But again, Chair, thank you for hearing this bill, and thanks for the introducer for introducing this bill because it levels the playing field for the residents who's suffering in the community. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. And I'm sure we're going to hear more before we go into decision making on that from you. Any other members with questions for those who testified and joined us live? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the last measure on this agenda, that is Senate Bill 2926. First on our testifiers list is Eugene Tian from DBED.
Aloha, Chair and Vice Chair. My name is Eugene Tian. I'm the administrator at DBED. We provided a written testimony providing comments. And according to our measure, if we want to do a comprehensive study, and I'm thinking about 10,000 surveys we'll do among the Hawaii suppliers, businesses, residents, and visitors. So the total cost would be about 300,000. But I did notice that Department of Taxation is willing to take over this responsibility, and I will be happy. And if they need any assistance, I'll be happy to assist them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tian. We have Clifton Otto to join us.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on this measure. My name is Dr. Cliff Otto. I am a cannabinoid medicine specialist, a medical doctor, and a certifying physician for Hawaii's medical cannabis program. The reason I'm making comments on this measure, just for the record, I am not an advocate for recreational legalization. I believe that this should be strictly used for medical purposes. But if the state is going to do research on potential tax revenue from recreational legalization, I feel that it should really include a review of the potential downsides and loss of revenue that is already occurring under our medical cannabis program because of the fact that our dispensaries and all of our patients, in fact, are violating federal law. They are federal criminals, which has many unintended consequences. So I feel that if there is going to be a review of the potential tax revenue from recreational legalization, it should include a review of this conflict and provide possible solutions instead of just waiting for a federal solution, considering that the state created this conflict in the first place when it authorized the medical use of cannabis 22 years ago. So anyway, you have my comments before you for a very simple amendment, and I am available for questions. Aloha.
Thank you, Mr. Otto. Members, any questions of those who joined us to testify? Okay. Thank you, members. We're going to go into a breakout room prior to taking the vote. Recess. Oh, welcome back. Thank you for your patience. We're reconvening our Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, our 3 o'clock agenda in room 224. We're about to take the vote on 6 measures. The first one is Senate Bill 2865. This is a spur for DIBS Hawaii. All of us have conferred and see the value in this investment and would like the state to be helpful in this project. So we would like to pass this measure with technical, non-substantive amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
Thank you. This is first on our list of 6 measures to vote on, and this one is in reference to Senate Bill 2865. Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Lee?
Aye.
Senator Riviere?
Aye.
Senator Favela?
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. On Senate Bill 3231, we had no supportive testimony, so we are going to defer this measure. On Senate Bill 3243, would like to pass this measure out with an amendment that adds energy to the array of possibilities to be placed in this new economic zone. And yeah, okay. Just for public clarity and transparency, let me just read you exactly what we're going to change the language to. Economic zone means a tract of real property determined by the board as being suitable for the use as building sites for projects by one or more industrial processing. This is where we're going to add production, and then we'll go on to say or manufacturing enterprises engaged in technology, including, we're going to add, but not limited to, high technology support facilities such as greenhouses and manufacturing, value-added processing and packaging facilities, research, training, technical analysis, software development, and pilot plant. This we're going to add energy or prototype product development. So that's the language we're going to use for the amendment, as well as technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I'll vote yes.
This is SB 3243.
Yes.
And it's the recommendations to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. For the remaining members, are there any reservations? Any nays? Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Senate Bill 3337. This is the DBED Christmas tree bill with all kinds of goodies that they want. And we're going to scratch some of those goodies. We're going to scratch out the $1 million ask for carrier neutral cable landing infrastructure. We already appropriated $10 million last year for this very issue. And if the administration sees it unfit to release the $10 million, that's for the DBED director and budget and finance to work out. But you already got $10 million. I don't see why you need $11 million for cable landing planning. So we're going to take out the $1 million for the carrier neutral cable landing infrastructure. Also, the $18 million ask by NELHA for their Ocean Economy Innovation Village, I'm going to take that out. We heard that there are opportunities for a public-private partnership, and let's have Mr. Barber pursue that option before allocating any monies for this village. Also going to delete the $400,000 for the Office of International Affairs, considering COVID is still with us, as well as supply chains issues are going to hamper any kind of business transactions between Hawaii and our neighbors throughout, particularly the Asia Pacific. I just don't see that this $400,000 investment is prudent at this time. It might be in the future, but at the present time, it doesn't make a lot of sense. On the solarizing Waianae, we had a really good discussion about this, but would like to delete the $2.5 million ask for solarizing Waianae, because where does it end? Are we going to solarize every community on Oahu? And keep in mind that 90,000 people have already paid to put solar on their rooftop, and now we're going to have a whole bunch of folks that are going to get free solar paid for by taxpayers on their roof, and probably not the most prudent way to approach our energy aspirations. Also going to remove the two asks from HCDA, the one about the electrical upgrades in Kalailo, as well as the improvements to what harbor is that? Not Kei,
Fisherman's Wharf.
Fisherman's Wharf, sorry. Take out those two since it is already in the CIP budget, so it's not necessary to be in this budget or this bill. Also going to add two positions. We're going to actually not add, but we're going to change HCATs to federally funded positions to be state funded positions, because HCAT is going to disappear potentially at the end of the year, and it would be a shame for all of their good work to just end because of a lack of federal earmark funding. So we're going to make that change and also provide technical non-substantive amendments. So members, any discussion? Oh, okay. Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
SB 3337. Chair recommends pass with amendments. Other than the chair, for all other members present, are there reservations? Nay votes. Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Okay, thank you, members. Our next measure is Senate Bill 3333. This is to allow for civil actions against those who are in the transient vacation rental market. We'd like to make two changes. One is lowering the award amount from $25,000 to $10,000 plus attorney fees if the individual filing the plaintiff is successful. And by the same token, we want to kind of mitigate any frivolous lawsuits. We're going to take Airbnb's recommendation, which states that the defendant is allowed to seek attorney fees and applicable damages from their accusers or the plaintiffs if the complaint is determined to be meritless and false. So on both ends, the attorney fees will be covered, and we will allow neighbors to help police their neighborhoods. Also, technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For Senate Bill 3333, the chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye for the remaining members. Any reservations? Any nays? Your recommendations adopted, Chair.
Thank you. And on the last measure, we have Senate Bill 2926 relating to marijuana. I'd like to push this measure along, but take into account DBED's recommendation that the report be delivered to us lawmakers in 2024 instead of 2023. And that is the only amendment. Any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For Senate Bill 2926, the chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes nay. Senator Lee?
Aye.
Senator Riviere?
Aye.
Senator Favela?
Aye.
Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. We are adjourned.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Hey, guys.